Hi guys, my name is Final, and welcome to my channel. This is just a ramble and story video I had in mind, as we're almost there for the Western release of Lost Ark, and my time on JP is coming to an end. And I know a lot of you don't know much about the JP servers, so here it is, my Lost Ark JP experience. Back in June of last year, following the announcement of a Western release for Lost Ark, players were invited to try the closed alpha on Steam. I remember at the time I was coming off of a hiatus from Shadowlands 9.0. Blizzard really dropped the ball on the release date of their first update to that expansion that eventually came out 7 months later at the end of June. So I was at a bit of a loss for things to do at the time. I was sinking a few hundred hours into the Switch version of Monster Hunter Rise, and things were getting a little repetitive by that point. And through a random misclick one day, I stumbled across a website that was giving away free Steam keys for Lost Ark Closed Alpha. Lost Ark was something that was on my radar for a time, given my love for action RPGs. I put countless thousands of hours into Diablo 3, Path of Exile, and eventually went to work for Grinding Gear Games here in New Zealand. But I could never align my schedule for this game for whatever reason. Whether it was work or a new game that I was playing. I knew at the time, shortly following the launch, there were problems and complaints from users, particularly regarding its egregious cache shop, and also server related issues such as overpopulated worlds and crowded islands where players desperately struggled to do and even access the content that was on offer. I think I lost my interest about the game when I heard that they were banning foreign players. I'll be honest, the closed alpha didn't hook me the way I thought it would. I started as a demonic or shadowblade. I think over the course of 2 days I got to level 40 or 45, and I vowed not to look at any content or guides in order to get a fresh experience. But what ended up happening was that I was doing literally every side quest possible on each map, making it kind of feel like your very generic MMO leveling experience. So I ended up not logging back into the closed alpha, even though there was still 48 hours left for the players to test. I was feeling kind of depressed. It wasn't the game that I thought it would be, that I had in my mind. The following night after the alpha ended, I went on Twitch and there was a streamer by the name of Joniwald. I believe she's one of the most popular streamers when it comes to this game in Korea. She was in a raid that had recently come out. It was the 3rd Legion raid, Cook Satan. And oh my god, this was a completely different game to what I had just played. Visually it was stunning, and the mechanics players were doing looked intricate, and they were learning this at eye level, so every mistake would cost someone their lives. This right here is what made me go, I need to give this game another shot. I need to try this before the release in the West. I looked at the 3 regions and decided to play on JP. Russia was more accessible, but at the cost of 280 MS. Korea, on the other hand, I had to set up my SSID and game account, and it seemed a bit more of a hassle. My thinking going into this was that I was going to play here for about 2 months and Amazon would release Lost Ark in the West. But that ended up being delayed, and as a result, here we are now, finally 7 months later, ready to embark on the journey all over again. I knew next to nothing about the content cycle, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. When I started, JP had just recently gotten Yawn, but I was just oblivious to anything like that. Just 2 little Makokos, my wife and I, who had started playing with me, leveling and experiencing the game. For the next 3 months, I absorbed a lot of information about the game. The experience of learning the game in tier 2 without having that feeling of I need to catch up to the rest of the players, I think allowed me to really appreciate the game's core systems, like the daily cycle of Chaos Dungeons, Guardian Raids, and Opponents. I'm never one to be big on exploration or achievement hunting or collecting. This game does a really good job of making you want to explore and collect. And I think other MMOs should take what Lost Ark is doing and incorporate it into their own games, because account progress through collecting and affinity and achievements can be really fun when it's spread out in these bite-sized portions, as Lost Ark does with its island system, but they also make it a meaningful thing to go after. So I was never left thinking, well, that was fun, but was it worth my time? I got to spend a lot of time with the raids Mystic and Kaiser, the 8 and 16 man raids. I was a complete Makoko with big ambitions to one day be at endgame, so I would religiously apply to Kaiser P3 groups when I was only at the entry level of 870i level. And the culture here on JP meant that I was given a free ride on occasion, and it was a good time. All the information that I had absorbed from watching veteran Korean players slowly gave me an understanding of what's to come and how to prepare for tier 3. Essentially, I increased my alt count at this point to 11 alts, a pretty disgusting number and very time consuming, especially considering I was just running, Chaos Dungeons, Guardian Raids, day in, day out, and amassing materials to push to Phaeton. Here, what really helped me stay grounded was that this was a completely solo effort, and I was just enjoying each different alt and each different class. I had no guild and knew absolutely no one here on JP. I couldn't read or write Japanese aside from greetings, so in a sense I wasn't looking at my peers and being lured into sort of poor financial decisions like pushing my item level and trying to get 333 engravings. Finally, the big day came and JP got Papanuka, or Punika as we're gonna call it. That first month was such a blur. I was playing maybe 20 hours a day for a month, working all my alts up. We didn't have the nostalgia update until about 2 months later, so it was a lot of hard work and grinding, relying on the resources I had amassed back in tier 2. But I had a plan and I stuck by it. Uriah Hard, the only Abyss dungeon currently for tier 3 at eye level, was a lot of fun. It was like a 3 to 5 hour experience of just being blasted over and over again. But my first real goal for this game was to fight Velganos. He's the last guardian in the first half of the tier 3 guardian list, and just grinding super hard to get to 1385 eye level, which was considered very difficult at the time. And what a treat it was to finally see my efforts pay off, to fight and learn Belga before most of, or anyone really tried here on JP. Something that the Korean community has coined the passport to playing Lost Ark, meaning that you're not considered a Lost Ark player until you can defeat Belga. We got the roadmap about a month in for the Argos patch and what's to come following that. Argos being the first raid of the tier and a fight that has some interesting mechanics that rely on team coordination. I knew that I had to find and join an English community, so I joined a guild called Elegance. It's the largest English speaking community on the server, and I met some truly nice people. I think the server is unique in the sense that JP players tend to carry quite a bit of respect in how they conduct themselves even in an MMO. So you wouldn't see anyone cussing anyone out or, just being like really polite. There's no bad manners here, but in turn, that meant that chat, for instance, never moved more than one line maybe every 5 minutes, sometimes leading you to wonder if you were the only person online. Argos' progression came and went, kind of a frustrating fight sometimes because Argos' random patterns tend to be pretty tilting. He has attacks like a jump hoof kick and charging multiple times in quick succession, so when you get hit as you're about to finish casting or you're in the middle of channeling this long ability, you really start to hate the fight and despise the stag. Thing about Lost Ark, watching friends, guildmates, or even streamers you have on as you play, you inevitably are made aware of your position relative to others, in the sense that the game makes it easy to compare one's progression to another. So in essence, there's no shortage of ambition to becoming the top player regardless of what region you play on. It's kind of a long-winded explanation for me making more alts. Time management became paramount. There's an endless schedule lined for you should you make it a point to run everything every day, and you're constantly teetering on that edge of sanity and exhaustion. All the materials, the gold I would farm on a day in day out process would be funneled straight to my main, and let me tell you, the enhancement in this game can be such a wild ride. I went 100% craftsman on my weapon from 19, 20, and 21, and to see some people get away with 1 to 5 tapping can be mentally draining. To give you an idea, you are essentially putting in 30 to 50 times the resources to achieve the same result per weapon level. I just bit down hard and kept telling myself it builds character, and to be honest, it did. When it comes to wanting the highest end things quickly in this game, you're either shelling out a small fortune worth of money or are insanely lucky. Most of us will come to learn that biding your time and finding enjoyment in the vast amount of content the game has to offer, while understanding the fact that the grind is about pacing yourself and what you can manage. Otherwise, it could turn your Lost Ark experience very sour and monotonous, something I would not wish on anyone playing this game. Around this time, the closed beta finally came out. I leveled and finished the Rondel main story within 24 hours, and quite honestly was a little disappointed at the lack of polish, and more specifically my attention kind of turned to how long it was actually going to take the game to reach tier 3. As a veteran, you can sometimes forget that the 2-month initial learning phase for a new player is vital, but you can also see this long and winding road ahead of you had they have gone and the route of releasing each tier at 2-month-long intervals. So for that reason, I'm okay with Smilegate and Amazon's decision to release tier 3 on launch. Try to move things at a pace where it never gets stale. There's always a new height in character and account progression you can aspire to. Just be prepared to say goodbye to your lives for the next 6 months. Around December is when we got Volton on JP, the first Legion raid of the tier. Highly anticipated, and something that if you're able to experience on the first progression week, you'll never forget as part of your Lost Ark journey. My group in Elegance dived right into hard mode as we were over the eye level to an extent, and it was a great 13-hour progression experience with the kill on the very last attempt before one of the members who was to leave like 3 hours ago ended up agreeing to do. Sadly, shortly after this is where I think the troubles began for the foreign community here on JP. Personally speaking, my decision to play on JP has always been to use this experience and to translate it when an A comes out, but for others, this was their permanent home in a sense, and every hour that they could spare from their lives, they would devote to the game, and I think some truly enjoyed the camaraderie of being part of a small community of outsiders. But PMang, the Japanese publisher for Lost Ark, had other ideas and started issuing bans and indefinite suspensions for the use of VPNs connecting to their servers. I suspect quite a few of these bans to do with RMT, as the foreign community got a little too lax, as the last bans were maybe over 6 months ago. But their ban hammer did cause a few good people who were not involved in those activities to lose their accounts. So Biakis, the second Commander raid, came out in January, and through progression and looking back on the fight now, I can see just how much they developed their raid design from Mystic, Kaiser, Argos, and now to this. Lots of patterns to be aware of, teamwork related mechanics to deal with. Overall, a very fun and visually alluring fight. I can't wait to see this raid come out on NA. Since Argos, I've been the highest eye-level foreigner on JP. Around this time, I hit my second goal I had, which was hitting the plus 25 cap on my weapon. The stress of enhancement and running all your content on your ults kind of washes away when you hit it, because you're free to invest in other goals, maybe focus more on gearing other classes that you want to play at a higher level. This really increased my enjoyment of the game significantly. I've forgotten to mention that I primarily played as a free-to-play player on JP, with the exception of a few costumes and character expansion slots. I'm just one that invested a significant amount of time. The whole pay to progress or pay to win argument I'll visit and try to unpack in the near future, but I can say that there's a reason for both free to play and convenience through the use of the cash shop. Smilegate has done a very good job in creating this ecosystem where essentially anyone who plays their game is making money for them. Those who buy purple crystals with gold that they farmed in game, and those that buy gold with orange crystals to keep the supply chain going, all work, in my opinion, to better the experience for everyone. RMT, through the use of multi-accounts and printing alts for content, does have a detrimental effect on the economy for sure, but that's also another topic for another day. Today is the 5th of February. We're about 3.5 days away from head start, seeing as I live in New Zealand. I'm ending my journey here on JP. The little heavy heart. I'm gonna miss my bongo cat, which is my main. Maybe I'll return for a few days to experience Cooksaden down the line, but I'm so excited to play the Western release with readable translations, a populated server, and chat just moving. And the vanilla experience of Lost Ark is something that is not to be missed. Any questions you have, leave a comment and I'll get to them. I'll be posting Lost Ark guides here on my channel, sharing tips for both Makokos and veterans alike. And I also stream every day on Twitch over at ttv/finalmmo. Have a wonderful day, enjoy the Western release, hope to see you back soon.